Welcome to the Perfect Place to Put a Practice podcast, the podcast dedicated to helping private practice owners like you or future practice owners find the ideal location to place and grow your practice. I'm your host, Mike Green from Dr. Demographics. Today we're going to talk about a topic that can make or break your practice and should weigh pretty heavily on your mind and where you decide to place your practice, and that is how to spot the difference between business-friendly and non-business friendly state and local governments. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much to all of you who have spent so much time that listen to us year after year, week after week, episode after episode. We get so much great feedback from so many of you who have said that the podcast was integral in their decision making and helped them feel more educated as they went into those somewhat scary transactions. It's a lot of money. It is something that's going to impact the next 20 plus years of your life and maybe your whole career. So we're glad to be part of that. We're glad to help you feel more educated and to continue to provide this information for you. We're going to do it as long as we can. We're committed to that and to give you unbiased and relevant information on your practice and practice location. And today's no different. We're going to talk about a topic that can impact your every single day, both profitability and operations, and that's state and local policies and taxes, regulations, and incentives that will help you fuel your success or ultimately hold you back from being successful. In this episode, we're going to break down a few key factors and define business-friendly environments, or at least how to spot them, and share some practical tips for evaluating your options. And then at the end of the episode, we'll wrap up with our top 5 business-friendly states for private practice owners. So whether you're a longtime listener, you've owned a practice for many years, or you're looking at it for the future, I think this episode will be relevant for you. Now, if you are in an area that is not business friendly, that does not mean that you can't be successful. Of course you can. Some of the most non-business friendly states in this country have thousands and thousands of practice owners who are very, very successful. And so don't take this as don't go to those states. You just know that you need to change up your strategy a little bit in order to be successful. But for this particular episode, we're going to look at how you can spot those business-friendly governments. And so it's important, and a lot of people, I think, overlook or don't look at the state and local governments when they're making a decision. But you're not just providing health care, you're not just providing a dental clinic or a veterinary clinic or whatever you are, you're running a small business. And that means you're going to deal with taxes, you're going to deal with regulations, staffing, hiring, all of that. State and local governments where you set up shop will play a massive role in how easy or hard it is to succeed. You can find success either way, absolutely, but one path is maybe a little easier or more profitable than the other. A business-friendly government creates an environment where the practice can thrive with lower costs, fewer hurdles, and support your growth. Non-business friendly government, on the other hand, can bog you down, high taxes, red tape, lack of resources, all the things. As an example, the ADA reported that the average net income for a general dentist in a private practice in 2024 was around $207,980, but in a state with high taxes or strict regulation, that number can shrink due to increased costs. Veterinarians and med spa owners, for example, they face similar challenges. Optometrists, same thing. Choosing a location with supportive policies can mean the difference between scraping by or building a thriving practice that you can grow because you've got some extra income to be able to throw into it. So how do you identify that right place? Let's look at 5 factors that in my mind are ones that you can look at, that you can make a judgment call. And not every state is going to have all of them, of course, but these are 5 factors that I think will be really relevant and will show you that your state or your local government is business friendly. The first, obviously, is the tax environment. Taxes eat into your profits. So a business-friendly state will offer low corporate income taxes, property taxes, and personal income taxes. For private practices where margins are often tight, this means more money for you to reinvest in staff, equipments, or maybe marketing and growth. Take states like Texas and Florida. They have no state income tax. This can save you thousands of dollars each year compared to a high state or a high tax state like California's example. Local taxes are just important. Some of the cities will add on their own business taxes and fees, and while it might seem like a small percentage, it can add up quickly when you look at your end of year profitability. To get a sense of your state tax climate, you want to check out the Tax Foundation State Business Tax Climate Index, which ranks the states based on their tax policies. So the second thing I want to talk about is your regulatory environment. Private practices face a complex web, and many of you know because you've gone through this, licensing, scope of practice, compliance, those kind of things, all of which are very important, absolutely. But there does come a place where it becomes a real stumbling block rather than a stepping stone for your success. A business-friendly state make those processes quite straightforward, not complicated. For example, some states allow a nurse practitioner, for example, or a physician's assistant to own a med spa with minimal physician oversight, and that will obviously reduce the cost and increase flexibility. Now, again, those regulations are there for a reason, absolutely, but they'll make the process really straightforward so you don't have to hire an army of lawyers to figure out the process. Dentists, veterinarians, look at how easy it is to get and renew your license and hire support staff like hygienists and technicians. States like Arizona and Utah are known for their streamlined regulations, making it easier to operate. In contrast, non-business friendly states might require excessive oversight of paperwork, and it will slow you down and increase your costs. And a lot of times that's not just in the front end, that is all through the process of you owning and running that practice. Third thing, incentives and support programs. So business-friendly states often will offer grants, tax credits, loan repayment programs, because they're trying to attract healthcare professionals, especially in underserved areas. The Health Resources and Services Administration reported that nearly 6,888 dental offices had a shortage in different areas in the United States. States like Wisconsin, for example, provide a loan forgiveness for dentists who want to practice in those areas. Veterinarians find similar programs in rural areas. They are attracted to states like Nevada, for example, that have some really interesting incentives. These incentives can help offset that startup cost or lighten the load, ease the burden, or at least reduce the financial burden and make it easier for you to build sustainable practice, especially when you are doing a startup and you've got so many other expenses you can look for. There's a reason why some of these big companies that we hear about go to certain states to open up their businesses, because those states want them there and are providing incentives for them to come and open up shop there. And that's no different, for healthcare providers. There are some states that absolutely will provide that as well. Number 4 is workforce availability and labor costs. So in a business-friendly state, they'll make it easy for you to hire qualified staff, like, for example, like a dental hygienist or a vet tech or an esthetician. The ADA notes that the median hourly wage for a dental hygienist is about $39, but this varies by state. So states like North Carolina, for example, with a strong supply of trained professionals and reasonable labor costs, are ideal. A non-business friendly state might have a really restrictive scope of practice laws that limit what your staff can do. And so there's no incentive for people to go out and they get that extra training. And so it forces you to hire a more expensive personnel who has had the gumption to go through all the hoops and whatnot to be able to be trained. And so, yes, they're trained absolutely, but they're going to cost you quite a bit, which will hurt your overhead. So check your local unemployment rates and job market trends to ensure you're in an area that you can attract the right talent and, most importantly, retain that talent once you have them. So number 5 is the market demand and the competition. So a business-friendly state often will have a growing population, or they'll have underserved areas where your services are needed. So states like Florida and Texas, booming populations, high demand for all areas of healthcare, including dental, veterinary, med spas, optometrists, whatnot. But you need to watch for oversaturation. Obviously, some of those areas have been growing for a long time and they have a lot of competition. Those numbers are getting really saturated. Of course, that's where Dr. Demographics comes into play, because we can look and evaluate those areas for you and help you find areas that are maybe not so obvious, that don't have those saturation numbers. You can also use tools like the U.S. Census Bureau, county business patterns to check the numbers of practices in your area. States like Georgia, with a balanced provider to population ratio, can offer opportunities without excessive competition. So let's look again at those warning signs in the non-business friendly government. So these are the red flags that can make your practice more challenging than it needs to be. High regulatory burdens, states with excessive paperwork, frequent inspections, complex compliance requirements like low Medicaid reimbursement rates, can often drain your time and money. This is especially tough for practices that are serving in low-income areas with low-income patients. Restrictive ownership laws. Some states, like California, have a strict corporate practice of medicine law that limits who can own a medical practice. And it complicates the partnership and expansion opportunities. For example, we've talked about med spas today. As areas that have med spas, that can become really a big challenge. High cost of living is something you should be looking at. States like New York often have a high staff salaries and steep rent, which makes your margins absolutely feel the squeeze. And so that's really, really difficult. Lack of incentives. If the state doesn't offer tax breaks, grant, loan forgiveness, you're missing out on financial support that could ease your your startup and growth costs. And lastly, saturated markets. Areas with too many practices, and so the government has tried to curtail that a little bit, or they just don't have organic population growth, can become a challenge. And again, that's where Dr. Demographics comes into play, because we can help you. So I promised that I would give you 5 business-friendly states that really stand out for private practice owners based on their tax policies and regulations, their incentives and market opportunities. And we've referenced these states already, and there's certainly more than 5, but these are the top 5 that come to our mind. So number 1 is Texas, and I did a great episode about a month ago on specifically the Houston area. You may want to check that out. Texas, no state income tax, growing population, streamlined regulations. They make Texas a great choice for all private practice providers. Cities like Austin and Dallas have strong demand and are, for right now anyways, reasonable labor costs. So Texas is definitely the place to be. Second, Florida. Again, no state income tax, booming population. Florida is very diverse, and so areas like Tampa and Orlando have a high demand for healthcare services, and not just diverse in culture, but diverse in demographics as well. You have retirees, you have young families, you have everything. And so Florida is an area where you can really find whatever it is that you're seeking for your practice. Number 3 would be Nevada, and that might surprise you a little bit. I know that Nevada is not on a lot of people's top 10 lists, but for right now, we like Nevada. Low taxes, business-friendly regulations, small business grants make Nevada really pretty attractive. Las Vegas, Reno, both are strong, growing markets. We feel like both of those areas are to a point where they're growing faster than what back in the day when the economy would go up and down, man, Vegas and Reno would feel hardcore. I think in the last 15 years, both of those areas have gotten some stronger foundation in housing and labor. And so I think that they can not feel those peaks and valleys quite as much, which makes it a really attractive place for you to open a practice. Another one, Arizona. Streamlined licensing, favorable regulatory environments make Arizona a great choice for private practice owners. The state also offers great incentives for practices in underserved areas. Arizona is a state that wants you there. They're going to incentivize you to be there. And so Arizona, as long as you can deal with the heat, is a great place for you to be. And the last one we'll recommend, and again, these are not the only 5 absolutely, but would be North Carolina. strong supply of healthcare professionals. There's reasonable labor costs, and the population is growing. North Carolina is an ideal place for practices looking to balance demand with competition, but that may not last for long, man. We do a lot of work in North Carolina. We know a lot of practices are looking in that area. So hopefully this has given you a good idea of what to look for in business-friendly states. In state and local governments can help you set up your private practice to be successful in the long term. Remember, focus on taxes, regulations, incentives, workforce availability, market demand, and you'll find that perfect location. Of course, we would love to be with you and help you in that process here at Dr. Demographics. Check out drdemographics.com for more information on that. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Please leave us a review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to, whether it's Apple or Spotify or whatever it is that you found us on. Again, my name is Mike Green with Dr. Demographics. Would love to be part of your process in setting up and helping you find that perfect place to put a practice. And until then, we'll keep the dream alive, and give us a call and visit our website, and we'll see you on the next episode.